All right, we're going to be solving absolute value inequalities. Now, you know, in the last lesson we were solving absolute value equations, and now we're going to inequalities. And there's a little bit more to know here because it depends on whether your inequality is a less than or a greater than. Okay, so notice on this that if we have a less than, right, the absolute value of x is less than a, then we are going to set it up in this way. And basically that's saying that x is greater than negative a and x is less than a. So if it is a less than or equal to, that is an and, okay? And one of the ways that helps me remember that is to write it this way. Not greater, it's less than. Less than, right? If you can think of that, I've actually remembered this forever this way, right? Less than is an and, right? Now, I know it's less than, it's not less than, but that is just a way, memory device, okay, to help you remember. And also setting it up this way is very beneficial and to help you solve it correctly. Okay, so let's do some practice. I have that same thing on this screen for this question. It says solve each inequality, then graph the solution set and write it in interval notation. Okay, so we're going to take the x and put it in the middle of a compound inequality. But notice we have to make that other side x is greater than negative 6. So we have to know to make the negative to the positive and set it up in this way. Now, we don't actually have to solve. We just had to get it set up for, right? I guess this is solved, right? Now we have determined that x is between negative 6 and 6, and the negative 6 or the 6, neither of those are included in our solution set. Now for graphing purposes, I like to use parentheses on my graph and not the circles because that coordinates then with my interval notation, and you should always put the line where your graph is supposed to be. And that's from negative 6 to positive 6. If you want to put a few more things in there, you can, but it's not necessary. On my lab, I think you mostly just select the correct graph on multiple choice for the graphing part of this. And then the interval notation is from negative 6 to positive 6. Remember, we use parentheses to indicate that negative 6 and positive 6 are not included in the solution set. Okay, so that's kind of the most simple type on less than. Notice we're still on this one's less than or equal to. So when we set it up, we're going to put the 5x minus 3 in the middle, and then 18 will be on both ends, one negative and one positive. We want the negative on the left, positive on the right, and it's actually saying 5x minus 3 is greater than or equal to negative 18 and less than or equal to positive 18. So for the solving, I'm going to add 3. Now, this is a 3-part inequality, a compound inequality. You can call this different things, but 3 parts sometimes helps you know whatever I do on that middle part, I have to do on both ends as well. So then we have negative 15 on the left, and we just have the 5x in the middle, and then 21 on the right. We divide to solve, so whatever we divide by in the middle part, we do that on the right and the left because we're solving a 3-part inequality. So this is negative 3x, and we have to leave this as an improper fraction. Remember, we don't really like mixed numbers in algebra, so we're just going to leave that as an improper fraction. It's perfectly fine that way. And then we put this on the graph. So we go from a negative 3 to positive 21/5. Remember, we're going to put our line there in between those. I always have them kind of wonky, you know, like too big or too small or whatever. Interval notation says that my interval is from -3 to 21/5. And you guys, those are both included. So it's really from -3 to 4 1/5, basically, right? If you want to think about that as where it's going on the graph. Sometimes you need to know that to pick out the right graph. If you're looking on My Math Lab, you know, where is this bracket located? What would be between the 4 and the 5 on the right? And remember, this is called the interval notation, which we've already had quite a bit of practice on in the first 2 sections of this chapter. Okay, next. Okay, so this is still less than. We're still on the less thans on these. And notice that my absolute value is not isolated. The same rule applies as it did when we were solving equations. We have to isolate the absolute value before we try to set it up. It gets really confusing on this if you don't do that, and also it's not going to be accurate if you forget to get this set up right. Okay, so we have the absolute value of z plus 2 is less than -3 plus 7 would be 4. Now I can set this up as my 3-part or compound inequality. So z plus 2 in my middle, it's greater than -4 and less than 4. Solve, and we just have to solve by subtracting 2. And so my compound inequality solution is -6. That's supposed to be my z. And then this is a 2. So here's what this says. Z is greater than -6 and less than 2. So it's from -6 to 2. -6 and 2 are not in the solution set because notice we have a less than, which means the parentheses on the graph and in our interval notation. And that indicates that these 2 numbers are not in our solution set. But everything in between is. So I kind of got that too far on my parenthesis there. So it is, that's my line drawing tool. -6 to +2 is the interval, and then we have that solved. Okay, so this is a good stopping place because we're going to go on to the greater than part of this. And so the second video might be a little bit longer, I'm not sure. All right, so I'll see you on the next video.